Sitting in the middle of the lower part of campus, Clippinger Laboratories is home to Ohio University's science programs. It also is home to several dangerous chemicals stored in the basement that could be unleashed if the Hocking River overflows its banks in the spring. Concerns about flooding might be far from the minds of Athens residents, but that wasn't always the case. Flooding along the Hocking River was an annual spring event which culminated in May of 1968, when South Green, West Green, and most of the lower parts of the city were flooded, costing the school and city millions in damage. To mitigate the effects of a future flood, the Army Corps of Engineers rerouted the Hocking away from its original spot in 1971, which passed under the current location of Baker Center, to its present-day site.
50 years ago, the ground on which I'm standing was a field, not the bank of the Hocking River. These banks you see behind me were carved not by nature, but by man. In 1971, the Army Corps of Engineering built these levees on either side to protect campus from the 40-year flood. That means every year there's a 2.5% chance that the water will get high enough to come over the sides of the levees and flood campus.
This map shows the areas of campus that would be affected by a 50-year flood, which has a 2% chance of happening in any given year. And should a 100-year flood occur, which is a flood that could happen at a 1% chance in any given year, these would be the areas affected. Among them, Clippinger Laboratories, which stores several hazardous chemicals in its basement. A spokesperson for Ohio University facilities said that the school would have time to remove hazardous chemicals in the event of a flood, claiming that a flash flood is unlikely. But Athens Mayor Paul Weil said flash floods are not impossible, and that the city should be prepared for anything.
You could actually get ice flows that would back things up. You could get in other words, the water would be that bad, but you get a situation where, because of an ice flow, it jams up underneath one of the bridges, and next thing you know, you get a backflow.
There are more concerns than just Clippinger. O'Bleness Hospital is located on the banks of the river and would have to be evacuated in the event of a large flood. Even if no lives are lost, the flood would cause millions in damage. Greg Springer is a professor at Ohio University who teaches about flooding. He says there is little the city can do to prevent these large floods from causing damage.
At this point, the levees would have to be made significantly larger if they were going to contain the 100-year flood. And that's not terribly practical because they already occupy so much space, and it's also, of course, it would be very expensive.
The odds are small that a flood of this size will occur in any given year, but it will happen eventually, and it remains to be seen if the school and the city are prepared. For WOUB, I'm Luke Torrance.